And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL Network.
Welcome back to Tapped Out. We appreciate you checking us out this Saturday night, wherever you are on the BetQL Network. That's Brendan. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. As always, produced by Jake Noacker. If you missed earlier today, Tom Aspinall, it took about a minute and a half, took out Marcin Tybura in the main event of UFC London. The co-main event, Meatball Molly McCann lost by armbar. She got submitted by Julia Storyalenko. So congratulations if you had the underdog money in the co-main event at plus 175. Last week, we haven't talked about this since our show went down before the Holly Holm fight. She got choked out in the second round by Mayra Bueno Silva. I remember going into it, I said Holly Holm is a little bit overrated, and you scoffed and laughed and said, "What do you mean? You don't remember when she kicked Ronda Rousey in the head?" Now can we say, I mean, I know it's only one fight, but I don't know how much more Holly Holm has left.
Yeah, it was a tough way to go. I mean, only the second submission loss of her career. I mean, the first one was, of course, a high-stakes one where she lost to Miesha Tate, but tough way to go for Holly. I mean, she is, 41 years old. So, yeah, she's up there, man. I don't know how much she has left in the tank. But, you know, it does seem like it may be catching up with her. Props to you for calling her for being washed early.
That's not what I wanted. That's not what I'm looking for.
That sounds like you're taking a victory lap on Holly being washed.
You know how I do. I calls them like I sees them, and I think that Holly Holm might be getting a little old in front of our eyes. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of getting old in front of our eyes, Josh Emmett looks like he's going to move up to lightweight for his retirement fight. That happened quick, right? Multiple times he's come on our radio show. Always enjoy our conversation with him. Fought for a title last time out, and now it's looking like he's got one more fight left, and he's going to hang up the gloves.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to get Paddy Pimblett seems to be the way that he's going to go. So interesting way to go out, because I feel like if you beat Paddy Pimblett at lightweight, I feel like that's only going to kind of reinvigorate you to go around. It's kind of a weird one for him to want to go out on. I don't know if Robbie Lawler going out with a 38-second knockout is giving everybody the goosies and they want to, go out on top, right, or what that is. But I don't know. I don't love it. I feel like Josh Emmett still has something left in the tank. Featherweight's a tough division. It's a tough division. He's lost to some tough guys. Taporia's obviously a monster, and Yair, I mean, that's a really hard guy to beat. So yeah, the Calvin Kattar fight was really, really close, but he's also a guy who's kind of sneaky old too. Like it's he's been around for a while. He's had some injuries, so I get it. It's just kind of it's a weird way to go out. You've known him as at a featherweight for a long time. Go back to lightweight now. A little bit strange.
If that is the fight that we see, I think Paddy gets his ass knocked out. I think Josh Emmett has a very Robbie Lawler type final fight. I don't think it takes long either.
I mean, yeah, that'd be a tough way to go for Paddy if you end up losing to Josh Emmett coming up in weight and you got knocked into the bleachers. That would be tough.
His retirement fight coming off of Paddy Pimblett, if he was a stock the last year and a half since we really started talking about him a lot, it was pointed straight up, maybe sideways for a little bit. Feels like maybe it's pointing down. He needs to go out there and get a win against a big name opponent. Remember all the smack talk between him and Ilya Topuria? Think about Topuria's stock where it's gone since then. Skyrocketed.
Well, not only that, it's funny. I felt like there was more of a pop for it. They showed the crowd today. This is just on Tobe's judgment, but I feel like MVP Michael Venom Page, who's now a free agent, felt like he got a bigger pop than Paddy did. And I thought it was interesting that they showed Michael Venom Page on the broadcast. So maybe a sign of things to come.
You, sir, are a true professional, because that's where I was going next. Michael Venom Page is indeed officially a free agent. He's a name that, if you're a fight fan, Bellator or otherwise, you've been watching this guy for a really long time now. So we'll have to see what the future of Bellator is, but they've got some fighters that the UFC would absolutely love to sign on their roster. You think about a guy like AJ McKee, Patricio Pitbull, my guy Johnny Eblen. I mean, depending on what the future of Bellator is, it feels like a lot of these guys, including MVP, could end up in the UFC really soon.
Yeah, and I think it'd be awesome. I mean, just adds to the talent pool. I mean, look, it hasn't been the best win-loss record, but Michael Chandler has definitely taken the star and the presence of being a UFC fighter, and he's run with it. He's taken every opportunity and said yes, and I feel like his notoriety has gone up. Maybe that's led more people to realize what his career was. I mean, but think about like Eddie Alvarez winning the belt. I mean, yeah, there's definitely capabilities of guys coming over from Bellator and doing big things, just like there were with Strikeforce guys coming over and doing big things. So MVP, another guy who's kind of sneaky old. He's like 36, but not I mean, that's not washed. Usually, in mixed martial arts, you can go a little bit into to your early 40s. But if he were to come in there, you want to see him in some big fights right away. I feel like.
It would be interesting to see how long it would take those guys, those Bellator guys, if there's crossover, to fight for the belt. Like Johnny Eblen, for example. How many fights does he really need in the UFC before he gets a shot at the belt?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, dude. And like, talking to Daya last week about Johnny Eblen, I was like, man, I really would love to see this guy even more so, see what it is. Because he just seems like he's just got like everything on his head right now. He's just driven to be one of the best in the world. And so if he got that opportunity at middleweight to do it, I feel like there's not a lot of guys that could deny Johnny Eblen right now. He's just that real of a dude. Just always in the gym, never stops. A lot like Bo Nickel, just like never stops training. Always feels like he's sharpening up his game. So I mean, there's a ton of Bellator guys if they came over to UFC. Now, it's obviously not great as far as like fighter pay is concerned and stuff like that. Like you're losing a branch of competition, but for us fight fans, it makes for some great matchups.
That's Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Next Saturday night is a fight fan's paradise. Not only do we get Spence Crawford as far as the boxing goes, but UFC 291, the Octagon, moves to Salt Lake City. We've talked a lot about the BMF fight between Dustin and Justin at the top of the card. Let's talk about some of these other fights and your early lean. Your guy, Wonder Boy Thompson, is on the card next week, and he's going to join us right here on Tapped Out, so you don't want to miss that next Saturday night. He takes on Michelle Pereira at plus 175. I assume you like Wonder Boy even at minus 225?
I do. I mean, I'm going to like see what the props are that night and probably see what I can get for him by knockout and things like that to see, where my method is leaning to try and get something like that. But yeah, he's a super hard guy to figure out, especially against when it's striker v striker. And Pereira is a very unorthodox guy. He likes to throw a lot of different stuff at you. I think that can open you up for Wonder Boy kind of picking you apart. Certainly, Wonder Boy is not what he was where he was like invincible to the knockout, but he is a tough guy to knock out. So I do lean Wonder Boy. I mean, immediately when he comes on the show, you're going to introduce him as Tobin's pick to be welterweight champion by the end of 2023. Yes.
Oh, you're damn right. You know I'm going to throw you immediately under the bus. It is kind of interesting, though, that Wonder Boy, I mean, you're right. You could come up with a crazy roundabout story how he could end up fighting for the belt again. I don't see it happening, as you said, but I do like him next Saturday night, and I'm willing to pay the minus 225. This is one of those fights, BT, where if you've got some family around that aren't big fight fans, bring them around the TV for this one. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's going to love this fight.
I feel like this is a card that has the making of that because you just look at it up and down. There's not a lot of fights on here that like you're thinking to yourself, how is that going to be boring? Like all these matchups seem like they would lend themselves. I mean, I suppose Chiesa versus Holland could go in a rough direction for Kevin Holland in certain respects, but I feel like, man, if you can't be Michael Chiesa, where is Kevin Holland going? You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a cool fight. Kevin Holland right now the favorite at minus 160. You can get Michael Chiesa at underdog money at BetMGM at plus 130. The one that has me worried, and I know you and I are on different pages about this guy. I think Derek Lewis is washed. And I actually think that Derek Lewis, this pains me to say, I love the Black Beast. I think the Black Beast has the best victory celebration in the history of the Octagon. But all that being said, he's a plus 140 underdog against Marcus Rogerio de Lima next Saturday night. You can get De Lima at minus 165. This is the showcase on the prelims. I actually could argue that Derek Lewis has been washed for a while. It's just he's fun, he's charismatic, He's good on the microphone, and he's always in fights, right? Even if it's a 25-minute fight and we're 23, 24 minutes in, he still might knock you out. But I think it's been, I don't know, I think you have to go back, BT, like 5 years. Whenever he fought Francis, not that that was a fun fight, but I would say that was the prime of Derek Lewis, and it's pretty much been downhill since.
It's hard to argue. I mean, like, look, he was on his 4-fight win streak, ended with Curtis Blades. Since then, he's lost 4 out of 5. His only win is against Chris Daukaus. Yeah, his only wins against Chris Daukaus, and that was kind of Daukaus. They were like, trying to hype him up, and he was able to kind of put an end to that hype train. But since then, you've lost to some tough guys, and Pavlovich lost to some tough guys. He lost to Gane, Tai Tuivasa, Pavlovich, who's killing everybody, and Spivak's probably the one where you're like, yeah, all right, where is this going? Does he have anything left? Whereas he's taking on a guy in DeLima. He's only been knocked out once in his career. It's a tough one. I mean, if you're not going to finish this one, then yes, I think that you have to have some conversations for sure if you're Derek Lewis. Because another guy, sneaky.
All right, if we're talking about old, washed up, and having those tough conversations, we have to talk about the fight between Tony Ferguson, the underdog, plus 260, against Bobby King Green at minus 350. And our guest earlier today, Feezy, was making a lot of good points about this fight, that Bobby Green's probably going to go to try to win this fight, win it quick, get the bonus, make Tony Ferguson look goofy like he has in his last couple of fights. I think this is it, so enjoy it, because I don't think Tony Ferguson's going to win this fight. I don't think that he even lasts probably more than 2 rounds. And once it's over, I think he hangs up the gloves. And it pains me to say it, but at some point he has to recognize what we all do, that this thing's pretty much over.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, it's 5 straight losses. He's gotten finished, but he got finished by Nate Diaz last time out, which is just about a year ago. And, Bobby Green is durable for sure. His last fight ended with the head clash with Jared Gordon, so not a lot of answers there. He has, before that got knocked out by Drew Dover and Islam, which were 2 tough ones. Here's the thing that's tough with Tony, because even in the Michael Chandler fight, I think he had moments. The thing with Tony,
he was good in the first round.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's tough about it, is I feel like Tony can probably give you a good round, but the thing that made Tony special back in the day was, as the fight went on, he got tougher. Like, it became it became worse for the opponent. And now you're like, it's almost like a Michael Johnson kind of factor, where Michael Johnson always looks like he's got a good moment, but something will happen along the way where it's going to get screwed up for him. And I think that's the problem with Tony, is like, this is the guy who became the ultimate war of attrition guy, and now he can't take any attrition. Like, as soon as a guy pushes back a little bit, he's open for something, and then the fight's over. So unless you're going to tell me Tony Ferguson goes out there and chokes out Bobby Green in a round, where do I feel good about picking him in this fight? I don't.
Tony's a baseball guy, so I'll give you a baseball analogy. He's lost his fastball, and that doesn't mean he's not going to end up in the Hall of Fame, and that doesn't mean he's not still fun to watch, but he's lost his fastball. And at this point, I think enjoy it while it lasts, because this could be the last time that we see Tony Ferguson fight in the UFC. Let's talk about the co-main event, and then on the other side, we'll spend some time on the BMF fight. Alex Pereira moves up to light heavyweight to take on Jan Blachowicz at plus 120. You can get Pereira at even money. I like Polish power in this one. I think he knocks him out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I understand why you're making that pick, because we just saw him get knocked out by a middleweight, and we saw Izzy have a lot of success. I mean, it's such a big experience difference. You're talking about Jan Blachowicz, what are we talking here? 40 professional fights that the guy's got, compared to Pereira, who in MMA is his 10th professional fight. So it's huge experience. It's a huge experience difference between the two of them. And it feels like he's got to come up there and he's got to make Jan Blachowicz respect his power right away. It's like, Jan Blachowicz, like, what are you going to do to like scare him with power? Like, he hasn't taken on a ton of guys who hit hard, and hasn't taken on a ton of guys. Like, this guy took the guy that, handled you and knocked you out. I mean, he ragdolled him to keep his belt. I mean, he's also, you want to talk about guys, sneaky old. He's not sneaky old. He's just old. But it's like he's had this resurgence on the back end of his career, and he's still scary, and he's still one of the best in the weight class. a weight class that snake bit, I give you, but still, like he is, it's a tough ask for Pereira, who feels like he's going into this with a puncher's chance, but I don't know how his punching power is going to translate to 205.
The belt, of course, is vacant in that weight class, light heavyweight, because Jamal Hill relinquished it after his injury. I think what's best for the weight class in the UFC is Pereira goes out there and wins this fight. We call him the number one contender, and then he gets the shot at the belt against Yuri Prochazka. I think that's best case scenario, and then we'll see what happens. Because, look, ever since John Jones left, you call it snake bit, I call it boring. They need some sort of infusion at light heavyweight. On the other side, we break down the BMF fight. Keep it right here. You're locked into the BetQL Network.